Hey everyone, my name is Abhijit. I am a certified life coach and a mental fitness enabler. Welcome to my channel. We're going to be exploring in today's discussion and video about depression. Well, if you're someone who's going through depression, let me first let you know and extend my love and compassion to you to let you know that you are not alone. And it's okay not to be okay, right? If you're someone who's watching this video and you're trying to educate yourself on what depression really is, I'm very happy and proud of you for taking the initiative to do so. And if you're someone who's just happened to come above this video and want to understand a little bit more about mental health, more power to you as well for that reason. I think depression in itself, right, is it's a very difficult thing to talk about because it's a lot more harder to even listen to it. And it's a bit of that paradox that kind of gets to me, at least, because I begin to think about what someone else is going through and I can imagine it's not easy to deal with at all. But I'll do my best to talk about this. So what is depression? Let's start with that, right? So depression is a mental health condition in which one begins to experience a prolonged sense of loneliness, and they begin to withdraw from society and withdraw from the things they used to enjoy doing. And there's a certain emptiness that sinks in, and it's just this feeling of misery. They're basically feeling bad and they don't know why. Now, the thing is, depression in itself is intangible, which means you can't see it. And hence, what happens is that a lot of people start stigmatizing the whole issue to say, hey, you know what? It's no big deal. Power through. Like, come on, be a man. Like, you can get over this. But it's not that easy. It's not like that. And that's because when I mentioned the word intangible, this is what it means. And that's also where the stigma has come from. When you have a cut somewhere on your arm, right? It's actually visible. You can actually see a cut, and then you apply medicine on it, and then you give it some time to heal, and then it becomes a scar, and then the scar fades away with time, right? So when you get physically wounded, it's something you can see, but with mental health, you can't. And that is extremely important to remember, because a lot of people who struggle with mental health are actually struggling to explain this also. You know, many a times you have a certain inflammation deep in your bones somewhere, rather in your muscles somewhere, you know, and you have a certain spasm, for instance, that you're not able to understand why or where it's coming from. You go to a physician, they probably take a few x-rays and go even one level deeper than an actual cut that you may have. And even that can be anatomically, physiologically, physically found out through scans, through blood tests, etc. Mental health, it doesn't work like that, right? And which is why it's extremely important to first understand that if you're someone who's going through depression, or if you don't know anything about depression, it's important that you learn to educate yourself. And where does that education begin, and why wasn't it there in the first place? Well, why wasn't it there in the first place? It should have been there, you know, go back 100 years, 200 years. Why wasn't it there in our education systems? What was the actual reason behind not putting it there? Right? We've had physical education and training in school, right? Why didn't we have anything on mental health education? And that's a question that has always been something I've been thinking about. Maybe if you guys know why, you can leave some answers and thoughts in the comment section. But essentially what has happened is that there's a certain level of ignorance that has, you know, brewed over a period of time about mental health being this thing that you can, that there's something that you can shake off. And anytime someone feels low, for instance, they're told, you know what, all the most successful people have overcome fear, have overcome their struggles to get to where they are. Or then people start going into a comparison mode of, you know, she or he is going through much more than you are. Why you have, you know, feeling depressed, right? So let me try break a few shackles here in the context of trying to destigmatize depression itself. right? So with respect to depression, when you're actually going through something like this, there doesn't have to be a reason to get depressed. If you have a cut on your arm, there's actually a reason for it, because you hit against something, you scratched against something. With depression, there doesn't have to be a reason, right? A lot of people keep looking for a reason, but sometimes there is just no reason. It can just happen. It's like the clouds just became super dark and there's nothing you could do about it. It's just something like that, right? So it is hence important to remember that this feeling of depression, this feeling of lowness, is something that doesn't always or necessarily have a cause. At least, definitely not when you're trying to, figure things out. The second thing is, there are two aspects to it. One is, of course, the side that it happens out of nowhere. It could be a phase. Maybe you're going through something for a period of time and then the dark clouds could go away. In some cases, it's actually a clinical disorder. Right? You could be clinically depressed. You could be struggling with major depressive disorder or dysthymia. These are just different grades of depression, right? A therapist will give you much, much more in-depth context on that. But essentially what happens is that you are then in a space where, to even know whether this is clinical or this is just a phase, is something that begins with you reaching out to a therapist, right? The one good thing I've observed in the last 10 years is that there is a lot more mental health awareness, which is a good thing. Mental health awareness in the sense that, courtesy of so many cases of celebrities coming out with their struggles with depression, unfortunately a lot of cases of suicide, celebrity suicides, etc., there has been a lot more talk about this and a lot more people coming out with their stories. You go on YouTube, you can see n number of resources of videos of people talking about their struggles, podcasts that show people talking about their struggles, that you can listen to and tune into. So it is a good thing in one sense that people are coming out with their stories and breaking the barrier. But I think that one step further has to be taken, one on a macro level and one on a micro level. I'll start with the micro level, right? If you're going through something like this, a feeling of loneliness that you're not able to understand better, it's important that the first thing you do is reach out, and you reach out to a therapist, right? Now, once you do that, your therapist will then be able to guide you into what to do next. If you need medication, etc., that's when a psychiatrist comes in, right? I've actually put up a video on the differences between a therapist and a psychiatrist versus someone like me as a life coach, right? So the mental health education part of it is one section to it is that something happens to you, you don't know what is going on. Believe me, it's a good thing, because when you're going through that feeling of lowness, it's basically your mind and body tell you that you need to take help. That should be your first step towards educating yourself first before you start educating others. So take that first step for yourself, reach out to a therapist, and then once you manage to do that, they will then guide you. You will go through therapy, a couple of sessions, maybe online, offline. You learn a couple of tools that they teach you to cope every time you feel a certain way. They'll even root cause and help you figure out why it is you're feeling that way. Help you identify maybe toxic thought patterns or destructive thought patterns or emotional behaviors, etc. Right? Emotional manifestations of those behaviors, rather. And as you learn about what you're going through inside your own, mental setup, you begin to educate yourself further, right? And then comes reading more books, reading more resources, actually implementing what your therapist has taught you in therapy, right? And then slowly you start working towards dealing with your depression better, right? Now, this is the mental health aspect of the depression. Once you reach a certain stage where you're kind of in a space where it's like a mental health version of the wound, right? So let's just take a sportsman, for example. If he's like about to go compete in the Olympics or something, and then he gets into a major accident or he has an injury to his leg or whatever, the first couple of things that need to be done for him is to let the wounds heal, right? Let the bones that are broken mend, So that is where it's almost like I'm giving you like a mental health example. So imagine you have a fracture in your mind, and you're taking that time out just for the fracture to heal, the bones to come back into order, right? Now the sportsman here, suppose he gives himself 3 4 months to 5 months, and the bone manages to mend itself. Now what? Right? This is where the physical fitness aspect comes into play, and he practices better, goes through rehabilitation of the physical kind, do a bunch of exercises, starts running again, starts doing whatever he needs to for his sport to become fit and to play again. So the mental fitness aspect of it comes with the mental health, in the mental health context. So suppose you're going through severe depression, you go to a therapist, they will help you tend to your wounds, and the wounds heal. Then comes mental fitness. A mental fitness is where you build your endurance, and that is where someone like me comes in, so that you are then able to basically use the now bone that has been put back into your body. You're now going to be able to run a marathon with it. You're going to build the endurance to run a marathon with it, right? So that's basically like a physical version of the mental health situation. I'm trying to give you that example here so you can relate. So you need to give yourself that time. Mental health, the education aspect of it covers two things. One is your mental health and recovery, and your mental fitness, right? Both these things need to be happening at the same time, but because there isn't much awareness and education about it, for now, if you're going through this mental health recovery stage and then going into fitness after that, that's absolutely fine as well, right? Now, essentially, I'm going to talk about two things quickly. One is the steps that you need to do and to take when you're feeling this way, right? Suppose you're someone who's struggling with depression, or you know someone who's struggling with depression, then the first thing to do will be to reach out to a therapist, right? There are helplines, for instance, that even if you don't know whom to reach out to, there are mental health helplines. You can Google them and you can find those resources, call, they can put you in touch with a therapist. You can then go and meet them. Then there's going to be family involvement in all likelihood. And I think I should probably talk about that in another video. But essentially then comes you facing your own demons inside, right? It's not an easy thing to do coming out with this, but it's best to come to your family and to your friend circle, talk about what you're going through. If you're someone who's having issues with your family, or you think your friends won't understand, do mention this to your therapist, right? Or to the person that you're probably talking to on the helpline, and maybe they'll be able to guide you on what you need to do, right? And I have a lot of tips and a lot of context I would love to share, but I think I should do that for a separate video, because I don't want too much of information overwhelming you. Right now, keep it very simple. Just reach out one step at a time, right? And I will definitely put something up soon to talk in detail about how a family can view this, how, etc. And we can cover it holistically. Then from there on, you can continue with therapy, taking the help you need. Where I come in much, much later as a mental fitness coach is someone who recognizes that you're going through depression and will, in an open and transparent chat, understand your triggers, understand what affects you, and then we can cater a plan around that to build your endurance. So right now, you're probably a phone which within 5 minutes loses battery charge from 100% to 50. Right? Maybe that's how it is now, because depression by nature is something that saps into your energy levels. So in such a situation, what I would want for you to do is that actually even charging that 100% of the battery will be difficult for you. I don't want you to go on a treadmill and attempt to become a marathon runner, right? So start with therapy, recharge your battery, get it to 100. Then I can come into the picture as a mental fitness coach, a life coach, and we can upgrade essentially your operating system, your battery rather. So you can go from becoming a power bank to a transformer, and you will be generating your own energy without having to look around for it. And you would basically, if earlier within 5 minutes you lost 50% of charge, gradually in 5 minutes you would only lose 70%, 20% of charge. You'll only lose 10% of charge, and at some point you will lose no charge at all, right? So we'll get to that point. I have a lot of other resources I've put videos of. I've spoken about tips for mental fitness. Please do check out that video. I've put up content on why you need a life coach. I've also put up content on the differences between a life coach, a therapist, and a mental fitness enabler or life coach like me. I've put up all these videos before. Do dive in, leave your queries in the comments, and if you have anything specific you'd like me to touch upon, please do let me know. Depression is a very broad subject, and it can go on for like hours and hours and hours. So I feel like I should actually answer specific questions that can actually cater to what you are looking for. And I realize that the more questions you have, the more answers I give, the more questions you'll have. And that's a good thing, at least up until a point where you're learning, right? Then comes the implementation part of it. And then comes the realization, hopefully someday, that you are wonderful. So in the meantime, do remember to reach out for help. Remember that I'm here, I care, and you matter. You have nothing to be ashamed of if you're someone struggling with depression. It can happen to anyone and everyone. It doesn't discriminate. So you're not alone in this. Don't listen to your mind when your mind tells you shouldn't take help. That's why I'm trying to keep it very simple for now. If you're someone who's struggling and you're not able to reach out for help, don't listen to your mind. Don't go 100 steps ahead. Just start with step 1 and call a helpline. Or if you know a friend or your parents whom you think you can trust something with, just tell them you're not doing okay and let them figure out what to do for you. Maybe call the therapist through them, reach out to a therapist, and then see what to do from there on. I wish you well. Sending you loads of compassion and hugs. It's going to be okay. Sending healing vibes as well. Take care of yourself. Remember, I'm here, I care, and you matter. Take care.